Mr. Chair.
Commissioner, you're recognized for your presentation or your discussion item.
I thought it would be in my interest and the interest of District 2 to give you some background on the issue with Margaret Street Park, or the Margaret Street Garden, if you will, and describe to you what exactly happened with the famous fence, or infamous fence, as you will. It's a little difficult to come here to you today and try to describe what it was like to be in City Hall December '06 or January of '07, because I certainly wasn't the favored son in this city, and many things didn't really happen for me, let's say, for the first 6 months. So there was a sense of what can we do to make a difference as quickly as we can. And we looked around in our office, and once we got the files back, we saw what we called fruit that could be hung very easily. And we knew that there was the streets, or these places, and I'm going to invite each one of you to go to the photo section. If you just go to the back of your file folder, you'll see two photographs. One is a photograph of what is known as Margaret Street, and the one above it you'll see equally as Margaret Street. And to give you a background, in January of 2001, the City Commission passed a resolution recommending that all sections of the streets within the city limits be paved. One of those sections included 3 blocks on Margaret Street. It was Furrow Avenue to Day Avenue, which is approximately 825 feet. Sometime in 2003, the city was about to proceed with the paving project, but the owners on Furrow and Day Avenue, the 3 blocks, as the city notified the adjacent owners, agreed to have their lands paved, and there you see at the bottom of the photograph, in the section of marked photographs, what the street looks like paved, and above that you'll see what is known as the gardens that were created. The folks at Furrow and Percival did not want these 2 blocks paved, and instead requested the City Commission to direct that the underdeveloped street be open as a green space. Paving the 2 streets, the portions you see above, was canceled. Now, what I've provided to you is an email of a document of every issue we could find. It starts back in 2001. It proceeds as far forward as the procurement issue. Back in January 19th of 2001, then City Manager Carlos Jimenez provided to the City Commission a list of all streets not paved. Margaret and Plaza were on it. On 17 December 2003, the City Administration, understanding that the Parks Department and Public Works would work together, were going to make a micro park. Now, these aren't my words. These are the words of the city. The issue in a nutshell was CIP was to pave through one of the Margaret Street sections between Day and Percival, and have the next 2 sections, the right-of-way south of Percival, converted into what they called 2 enclosed micro parks, which is green space for future generations. This got the community going. And if you look right there, you'll see the charrette. The charrette is a 2003 charrette. And what it is the community coming together. And I just want to give you the level of involvement of this community coming together and give you just a brief history as to how they worked together and what they did. And they did their due diligence. This community created, off the internet, the Denver Urban Gardens. And the Denver Urban Gardens described in it the word community. It is a word that says too much and not enough. It is the sharing of interest, a listening ear, a sense of safety, a place of pride. You won't find a definition explaining how community works or why, but in the coming together, here's a sense of hope. They found something called Montgomery Parks. Residents make decisions about the park in an informal, ad hoc manner. They talk to each other and they form an informal consensus. They saw something called the Community Greens, one of the worst spots in Minneapolis. A block containing 5 crack houses and high crime is now rated the best garden in the United States. Chandler's Yard, Baltimore, Maryland, right in the Federal Housing Neighborhood Project. They got their due diligence, they looked at that and they said, these people did it. Jackson Heights, Queens, a sanctuary of trees. I grew up right next to Jackson Heights. Pocket parks gather the people, they turned around and they looked at what have other people have done. And they created something called the Coconut Grove West Island District Urban Tropical Garden Club. 9 residents, and guess what? The city. The city together with the 9 residents. It was the net administrator at the time, Homer Whitaker. And this is what they said to each other, because it's in the minutes. The garden could be designed to be more secure by having a garden fence. On 2 March of 2004, they started to meet. 7 residents, they got University of Miami involved, but guess what UM said? They didn't have the resources. They asked if UF could help, and believe it or not, UF did come down, but they didn't have the resources either. On 30th March of 2004, 9 residents came, and guess what they called themselves? By unanimous vote, the Grove Heritage Garden was its name. And they had 12 people come together. And who was there? The City of Miami. On 11 May 2004, they created what was known as the People's Plan. And what you're seeing up here is the very drawings of what is described as the People's Plan. The Director of Public Works, Commissioner Spence Jones, sent an agreement to the city called the 5510 Northwest 1st Avenue. It's called the Northwest 54th St. Garden Agreement. That agreement was the blueprint under which they expected to work. They expected to have a groundbreaking on 17 July 2004. Didn't happen. The group was to invite newly elected, now let's think about this, newly elected official Carlos Gimenez, Commissioner Winton, and the city mayor to hear the agenda and the plans. On 16 November 2004, they finally decided where to plant the trees. And you're seeing right up there what they're doing. They continue to meet 15 February 2005. They continue to meet 18 March 2005. And the Friends of the Everglades came, and they said, we can help you with trees. On 12 April 2005, they created a survey. But what they needed to do is get rid of older trees, rocks, stumps, because hurricanes had come. And they were asking everyone for help. They even asked Home Depot for help. Finally, the Tree Man Trust came in and said, we can help plant trees. And you'll see that they met on 5 May 2005, 19 July 2005. They got emails from the city saying, don't worry, the net administrator will facilitate the tree planting. On October 18, 2005, they had permits issued to the City of Miami to Homer Whitaker. On 8 September 2005, this is an email, I'm sorry, if you listen to this, the last email we could locate was 18 October 2005. The next email we're able to locate is 8 September 2006. Almost 1 year went by. The Director of CIP communicates to the Director of Public Works. Have you heard of Pocket Park on Margaret between Fro and Percival? And operations responds, initially it was to clean up the area and keep the grass mowed until landscaping and designation as a park. And Len Helmers responds, Margaret Street is an unpaved, dedicated right-of-way. Several years ago, the city was going to pave and open Margaret Street between Fro Avenue and Day Avenues, 3 blocks, and notified adjacent property owners. The property owners between Percival and Day Avenues agreed, and this 1 block was paved. The property owners between Fro and Percival Avenues requested the City Commission to direct the undeveloped street to be preserved as an open park space. The paving of the 2-block portion of Margaret Street was canceled. The unpaved portion of Margaret Street is still dedicated right-of-way and is not officially dedicated as an official park. Subsequently, the homeowners created Grove Heritage Tropical Garden Committee and wanted to create a garden within the city right-of-way. That is the last communication you will ever see about that park until my office came involved. On 14 March 2007, Ryan Alexander wrote to the Director of Parks, through the generosity of area contractors, our office is removing some debris at Coconut Grove Elementary on 21 May 2007. And let me tell you the debris that we removed from Coconut Grove Elementary.